everybody wants to say that the Chiefs got lucky. I don't think you can say it's lucky because they made the play. If the Broncos just missed the field goal, that is lucky. But the Chiefs went out there and, it's not just an automatic play. You're not just handed the 3 points. You get a chance to change the course of the game, and they did. They went out there and made a play by one of their most play-making guys on the team. So cheers to everyone involved on that last play of the game.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Yeah, that's right, folks. The show is called Amateur Hour. I'm Ryan Scott Hall, and joining me today, I think he might have been a long snapper in another life. It's his Dirkness.
So
Blocked! It's been blocked! The Chiefs have won!
Can't block us up.
I tried.
The first known blocked sup, according to Pro Football Reference, in amateur hour history. We've seen history today.
I mean, I have stepped on your sup before. I've fumbled my way through your sup, but never intentionally blocked your sup. But
we've seen Phil Rivers fumble it, right before the end of the game. Seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Variety of different ways, but never. I mean, what was the stat? The first blocked field goal is the shortest blocked field goal in like the final play of the game, down 1 or 2 or something. Some kind of, we drew it up.
That list of field goals, I don't know what the circumstances were. Maybe it was just like all the blocked kicks this year, and it was like 10 yards shorter than any other kick, and like 15 yards shorter than the bulk of the other blocks. They were all in the 50s and 60s. Like, you have to be trying to line drive it to make it easier, I guess, on the defenders.
It was final play of the game, down 1 or 2. So the field goal went from, a regulation win for the Chiefs to a regulation win for the Broncos kind of thing. So like as big as a win probability swing as you can get basically in an NFL game. I'm sure it was a 95% swing on one play or something.
And like a full redemption arc for the special tubes, I would say. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they had some highs in the game before that, but what the Butker, man? Like, I have no idea what they were thinking on the kick to Denver on the kickoff after their field goal to take the lead. Well, what? Was it an accident? Were they trying to get cute? It seemed intentional, and it was like, my goodness, if there is a moment that we could say, here's a microcosm of what it's like to cheer for a team that employs Dave Tobe. Like, this is, in the most crucial moment, he's going to ask his kicker to just do the dumbest thing possible because he thinks he's going to outsmart you on it. I'm so frustrated.
First off, enough of the Dave Tobe hate. We'll get to that later on. I got a Zag of the week here. But, first off, a shout out to one of my least favorite games of all time, the 1999 season finale when the Chiefs lose to the Raiders. They have playoffs on the line. They got a 17-0 lead. It's John Gruden's first season. It's Rich Gannon's first season in Oakland. And they end up kicking the ball out of bounds on the final drive, giving it to the ball at the 40, when you used to get touchbacks to the 20 back then. So, that's a 20-yard gap. It's only a 10-yard gap now. But, yeah, I think he was just trying to squib it, which I don't think is a terrible play, but it did seem like a terrible kick. I think there's room to be had in the squibs being a smart play. But, yeah, that ended up being not good at all. And they didn't even show it. He didn't even see it on the broadcast. Like, I wasn't even watching it live because they come back from commercial, they hardly show it, and then all of a sudden you're like, what the hell happened? You just see a ball like trickling out of bounds. Like, did they block the kickoff? What the hell happened here?
Honestly, I felt so relieved that nobody else saw it because I went to the bathroom to pee thinking that I had the time, and I come out and there's a penalty, and I'm like, wait, what? And I didn't even see it. I missed it. And I literally asked Twitter, like, hey, so we tried some cute stuff. It doesn't work out. Like, what happened? And literally nobody even responded. Like, nobody knew. In my notes, I had what the Butker and an unbelievable response for the special team. Peanut did not like that pun. Sorry. No, not.
Get that weak shit out of here, Peanut says. No puns. No puns in the house.
Yeah. And gosh, man, peanut pun versus peanut punch, like it's in there somewhere. There's a joke in there somewhere. I'm not sure.
We've been teaching her the peanut punch. I mean, if there's a dog walking with with a ball, I mean, she'll go right up, stick that paw right in its mouth, and just ball loose.
Fantastic. Well, I don't. You may have spent a little more time consuming what's out there about this play. I had a couple different people at work ask me today, "Oh, have you seen the breakdowns? Like the Chiefs found a tell." And I'm like, "No, I have not seen the breakdowns. I haven't seen anything." So in the aftermath of this blocked kick, what more have you learned about, I guess, whether it's Tobe or the individual players that the Chiefs are using? I've heard that Justin Reed is like the fastest guy in the NFL in terms of anticipating that special team snap and getting around the edge to block. But I don't even know if he was involved on this one. It looked like a bunch of white arms is what I saw. I saw white arms.
Including 2 from a referee is what I saw. But no, Justin Reed was on the edge. I mean, he didn't have much play in this one. He did block a kick against Denver last year, which I kind of forgot, but saw that circulating a little bit. No, so apparently the Broncos just have a guy who gets knocked over on every single field goal attempt.
That's this dude they knocked over. I heard he hit the ground 10 or 12 times or something. I think we knew that before Monday morning.
It's something like 8 of 10 times, like 8 of their last 10 kicks or something, and there's compilations going around of him, getting knocked on his ass, which I don't think is rare. I saw McAfee talk about it a little bit. He said it's not the rarest thing, but I mean, Leo's lined up directly over him, which is probably one of the last guys you want to see in the NFL lined up over a guy who constantly gets knocked on his ass.
Yeah, probably intentional from the Chiefs side, right? This guy that gets knocked over all the time, let's put our most freakishly strong and explosive guy right opposite him.
And so he had done it a few times early in the game too, and just wasn't able to get there in time. I mean, field goals happen so quick that you can knock this guy over and jump in and still not get there. So yeah, Leo just completely destroys this man. He's obviously charged up before the play. Apparently he tells Pinnell before the play he's going to block it. I do think this is something that they kind of knew and attacked. A couple things that I thought was interesting. I think people have seen a lot of the normal stuff, but first off, the Broncos purposely on the last play, their last offensive play, purposely moved the ball over to the right hash mark. Now, this is presumably just because Will Lutz wants to kick from the right. That's every kicker has a preference on side. But then they have the guy, let's call him Fall Down Boy. He's lined up on the left side, and Leo's able to rush over him. He wouldn't be able to do that if it was lined up on the other hash. Because then he'd have to get all the way across the middle of the line, and it's not a huge difference, but everything is so quick with a field goal that I think it makes all the difference in the world. He doesn't block that from that side if he's on the left hash. The second thing is that kind of watching it in slow motion, kind of a different angle that I saw, and everybody on the Chiefs, immediately rushes to the line or whatever, kind of doing their thing. Derek Nottie immediately hits the deck and slyly pulls his guy just a little bit to the inside, and that kind of opens up the lane that, George and Leo both go crashing through. And that's one of the reasons why that opens up so wide. And I think it's Jack Cochran over there as well. And so all 3 of them are able to just crash through it. And, Leo's the one that gets his hand on it. But I think it's an orchestrated play. I'm sure they were extremely excited when the Broncos moved to the right hash. And just, it's wild that a lot of aspects went into this. And you kind of save this for plays like this. Even though I guess they're kind of doing it early in the game too, but you kind of go all out on this one. Kind of like earlier in the season, I can't remember who it was, but they did the jump over the line thing, and they, pushed down on the lineman, and that was kind of a next level thing. In years past, we've seen the motion in from the side and using that momentum to kind of sprint in and block it that way. So just a well executed play that, everybody wants to say that the Chiefs got lucky. I don't think you can say it's lucky because they made the play. If the Broncos just missed the field goal, that is lucky. But the Chiefs went out there and, it's it's not just an automatic play. You're not just handed the 3 points. You get a chance to change the course of the game, and they did. They went out there and made a play by one of their most play-making guys on the team. So cheers to everyone involved on that last play of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I just laughed, man, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Like, I didn't really know how to respond in the moment. Just another one of the Chiefs, wild and crazy wins out here. Like, I actually found myself thinking about, like, how do I even describe what the Chiefs are doing in a game like this? We're talking about, like, this is perhaps the like all unimpressive team that the Chiefs have been. We're talking about how they're in their championship era, not their style points era, so on and so forth. But like, this might have been their least impressive win of the year, right? I mean, they do erase another second half deficit and apparently extend a record of now 9 straight games, including the playoffs, where they've trailed by 7 or more. I mean, I don't really know what to take away from this game, because it's amazing that they won. It's phenomenal. It was such a great moment. We all got, I think, a great laugh out of it. And there's, even more runway to praise a guy like Leo Chenal, who I think he's got to have, like, I don't know what the advanced stat would be or what the equivalent would be NFL wise, but like, he doesn't play very many snaps and he constantly seems to be doing stuff like this. And this one even resulted in a stat, whereas many of the other plays that he makes, it's, he blew up this run while he was playing defensive tackle, despite the fact that he's, 6'2", 250 or whatever. And so there is a bunch of stuff that he does that isn't really like in the stat column. But I mean, this guy seems like on a down-to-down basis, a snap-to-snap basis, he might be one of the more impactful, let's say, defenders, but obviously some of his work comes on special teams, but he's still kind of playing defense as a special teamer. But God, what more can you say about Leo Chenal at this point? The guy continues to do these things where it's like every single Chiefs film nerd is like, all right, can't wait to cut up Leo and show you guys all the stuff that he does this week. And that's week after week after week. Are you bored of Leo Chenal yet, or?
I think part of this is like, maybe like, so most teams, like the backup quarterback, they call it like the most popular guy on the team, because it's always like kind of want to see the backup quarterback. It's like, I'm tired of watching this quarterback. Like, maybe he can do better, and that's kind of like the old idiom, like the backup quarterback's the most popular guy on the team. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, obviously the backup quarterback's not going to be the most popular guy on the team. So you got to look at other positions like the backup linebacker. I mean, Drew Tranquil, one of the most popular guys on the team last year. Now Leo Chenal might be the most popular guy on the team this year. We have to look at other positions to find our favorite guy on the team that isn't playing. And the guy might have been Kingsley for, a few weeks here. Like, so when Wanya's having his struggles, like, well, we got to see what Kingsley can do. Give him another chance. And then it doesn't quite go as good as it can there. But yeah, you mentioned, was it the most unimpressive game of the season? I think we should answer that right after this break.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
All right, friends. Through your support, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City provides nearly 1,000 kids and teens every day with a safe place to develop essential skills, make lasting connections, and have fun. As a result of their time at the Boys and Girls Clubs, these kids are more likely to graduate from high school, volunteer in their community, and ultimately just make healthy choices. We want you to try to get involved in some way, shape, or form with the Boys and Girls Clubs. And one of their biggest events of the year is coming up in April. Saturday, April 26th at 5 p.m. at the Overland Park Convention Center, the 29th annual Kids Night Out event It's an exciting evening where 1,400 plus guests join together to benefit the kids served by Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. This event has got a cocktail party, a silent auction, dinner, a live auction, and, of course, a performance by a special celebrity guest. And we've got no shortage of those here in Kansas City. It's business cocktail attire, and you can find out more by visiting helpkckids.org.
Thanks in part to dollars raised through Kids Night Out 2024, the clubs were able to expand their highly successful Club Lit program to a fourth site last year, the J&D Wagner Unit. This program has shown significant impact in advancing grade-level reading for all K-3 club students. The expansion of Club Lit brings enhanced tutoring for more club members daily, which positions them to increase their impact on the academic progression of more young people. The long-term goal is to make Club Lit available for kids who need us at every single club site here in Kansas City. By supporting Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City through events like Kids Night Out, you can help us build great futures for our kids. Join us online at helpkckids.org or on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, or X. It's Help KC Kids.
Pretty cool event coming up. Hope you guys can make it.
Are we the celebrity guests? Are we the celebrity guests?
I don't know if we
I haven't got my invite. I haven't got my invite yet.
We could be like opening acts potentially. I think we might
Loosen the crowd up.
The warm up for the warm up.
I can handle that.
They might put us outside in the parking lot with a list of people to check off. They'll give us a microphone too, potentially. But
we're security now?
Something.
I think you just demoted us.
Table, right? All right. So I asked if this was the most unimpressive win of the year, Dirk. I mean, I almost wanted to treat this show like had we lost, you know.
Good.
I mean,
it should be like a dry run. It should be a dry run for a loss, so we're prepared.
Yeah, I said toward the end of the game, I mean, it felt inevitable that the Chiefs were going to lose. And so I'm sitting here kind of trying to fire away in my notes and get a few things while it's fresh. And I'm thinking about who you mad at. And I put out on Twitter, there's going to be no shortage of people for who you mad at, including basically our best offensive and defensive players, Patrick Mahomes and Trent McDuffie. You're pointing your finger at me, Dirk.
Well, let me set the table first. Let me set the table for how we're getting here. Because if you look at the game, I feel like the Broncos kind of took it to us. I feel like they were definitely the more physical team, while the Chiefs prided themselves on physicality all season long. Like we've discussed that as their identity this season. And I feel like the Broncos kind of came out and took it to us on both sides of the lines. It was our worst running output of the season by far, under 2.5 yards per carry. Mahomes misses 2 touchdown throws. It's Trent McDuffie's worst game of the season. Chris Jones is mostly non-existent. Bo Nix goes 22 for 30 for 215 and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Didn't see that stat line coming. The group chat's debating how I'd fare at left tackle versus Kingsley out there. That's how bad it got. And we kicked the ball short of the landing zone on the biggest drive of the day, all of which leads up to the Chiefs winning and being 9-0. But yes, totally agree that lots of aspects of a loss here. And, for 59 minutes and 55 seconds, it did very much so look like a loss. So I'm fine treating it that way. I'm kind of, let's see what it's like. Let's try a loss.
I think truly this is almost exactly the game that I expected. Denver and Kansas City both play ugly. Denver, I don't think it's as much by choice, more so that they have a rookie quarterback and they're lacking at the skill positions. And so they are trying to build something, but they are missing pieces, and so they play ugly. The Chiefs are also missing a lot of pieces due to injury, which is why they have been playing ugly. And so I thought two teams that want to possess the ball, that want to slow the game down, that want to control the clock, that play physical, that it was going to probably be low scoring, tight, ugly. And ultimately that's what we got, because, for every positive stat that you might have about the Chiefs defense, you're going to have a negative stat about the Chiefs offense. Really, both defenses, I think, kind of ruled the day. and it was a really ugly contest. But there were just so many, I think, like individually bad performances in this that was why I started thinking, who are you mad at? And the first person at the top of my list that I'm mad at is Joshua Briscoe. The reason is,
he was terrible out there on Sunday.
Because after last week, when I specifically asked people at KCSN to not retweet me, Josh retweeted me in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. I mean, someone either doesn't listen to the show or they thought it would be funny to do the exact thing that I asked them not to do at one of the most crucial moments of the game. So Josh is at the top of my list for who I'm mad at. But beyond that, the tweet he retweeted was me mentioning both McDuffie and Mahomes. And I think they are, in McDuffie's case, he's arguably our best defensive player, but that probably has to go to Chris Jones. Obviously, Mahomes is the best offensive player and really the best player at any position on any team, maybe in any sports, anywhere in the world. And I just thought that both of those guys had pretty rough days. Do you want to start with McDuffie or do you want to start with Mahomes?
I mean, let's go to the D, I guess. Let's go with the D. Let's start with McDuffie.
So I have seen people smarter than me coming to McDuffie's defense and basically just saying Courtland Sutton is a full, 3 or 4 inches taller than McDuffie. He's got the really long arms. He's a possession receiver. He's able to do these different things. He's just a really tough matchup for McDuffie. He's the exact type of player that McDuffie's going to struggle against. And I'm like, I think I saw Sutton catch 2 balls apart from the touchdown when all he did was like run a route and left McDuffie in the dust, including one on, I don't even know if there was a break or if it was just like a drag crosser, and McDuffie was just 2-3 yards behind him. And we're not talking about a fast guy. And we're not talking about McDuffie getting beat off a line. I don't know what was going on with him, but this was probably his worst game as a pro, especially when you look at the complete, like, my understanding is everyone was saying he completely just missed the jam on the touchdown. Is that your read on what happened on that play? He was supposed to, but then it almost seemed like he opened up like he was expecting some safety help or something. I don't know. I don't know. It was a bad day at the office for Trent McDuffie.
Well, yeah, and then, I mean, it was the third down play at the end, which I think looks bad. But watching it again, I've been, talking with a few people, I feel like it's a bit of a miscommunication somewhere, because you see, when you look at the replay, you have Justin Reed, who's kind of on the tight end, who doesn't actually go out for a route. He jumps the running back, and then both Bolton and Tranquil jump to the running back. So they have 3 guys that all jump to the running back who's in the flat. It's like a 3rd and 7 or 8, and the running back's not even at the sticks or anything. He's at like 2 yards depth. So I think McDuffie's like expecting someone to be sitting in the middle and kind of have help on that route. I think someone, either Bolton or Tranquil, fucked up. So it was a tough day for McDuffie, but I want to highlight there was just kind of some defensive miscommunications all game long. Because you have on that Troutman one, Troutman crosses the field, and we have just everybody on our defense running the opposite way. Nazi, kind of in man, it almost looks like, and he's chasing his guy across the field. Tranquil kind of turns and he's running across the field, and Troutman and another Broncos receiver just running by themselves the other way. On their first touchdown, that guy gets wide open too. I can't identify that coverage either. Tranquil kind of goes with the running back in the motion, and Bolton doesn't really follow the guy. It doesn't look like man coverage. It's just a zone with a huge hole sitting right there. So I counter the McDuffie struggles, which I'm not denying or anything, because I think Sutton kind of had his way with them. And I kind of reject the theory that he's hard to guard because he's big, because I don't think he really used his size on any of the catches on the day. So I don't think that was like the problem out there. It was more just like him creating separation on McDuffie. But cornerback's tough job. So I don't like the hop on corners, even the great ones, when they have bad days. And every corner kind of has like a guy who kind of gets the best of them. But what concerned me was a lot of the miscommunications that I was seeing out on the defense. So I guess Who would I be mad at for that? Spags or Bolton, I guess, kind of sets the defense. Reed, I don't know who would be to blame on that. It's impossible to know whose responsibility it's supposed to be without knowing the assignment. So I don't know if I was mad about that, but I was concerned about that.
There did seem to be some communication issues, guys not knowing exactly where they're supposed to be. Some of this probably has to do with just the injuries that they've dealt with on the defensive side of the ball too. My understanding, could be wrong on these numbers, but I believe that your boy Nazi Bear, he played like 90% of the snaps today, and I don't know that he played more than maybe like 40 in any game yet this year. Like just straight starter treatment on Sunday. And he'd also been out of the mix for a few weeks. Had he come back from the injury, or was this his first action since we lost him to the concussion 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, no, this is his first game back. We kind of highlighted the struggles they've been having with Josh Williams. He kind of had some communication problems, it seemed like. Roland Wallace, I talked about him a lot last week. I didn't trust him on the field. I don't think he saw the field at all. I never looked at stat counts this week. But what it looked like to me, we're doing a lot of 11th man watch on the defense to see what they're doing. And it seemed like this week they were starting Nazi, which I am good with. I think that's the right idea. I would bring in Josh Williams as the third corner and kind of split him with Chimichurri out there. It seemed like this game they were going with Chimichurri most of the time. I saw him lined up in the slot multiple times. A situation I discussed exactly last week. If it's 3rd and 4 and Chimichurri is lined up in the slot and man coverage, they're going to attack him. And we saw that happen exactly with him giving up a 3rd down on 3rd and 4. He gave up another one later on 3rd and 2, like on a little swing route. I mean, neither of these were like terrible plays by themselves, but I do think it is where opposing offenses are going to attack. I do not really trust any of our slot defenders, not named Trent McDuffie, which is who we had there last year. I think it's just an extremely tough position to play. And if you're lined up in man and we're bringing a lot of pressure and you're playing one-on-one there in the slot, that's a tough ask. And I don't think anyone on the Chiefs roster is up for it outside of McDuffie. And so I think that's just kind of the biggest difference between the defense from last year to this year. I mean, you got Snead, Jalen Watson, and McDuffie all playing corner last year, and they were allowed to do so much on defense. And this year, now down, Snead obviously losing him, and then Watson getting hurt. It's just a lot less trust in that secondary. And I think what that led to was early on kind of a reluctance from Spagnuolo to bring blitz packages. We kind of expected them to kind of light Bo Nix up and confuse him and just see all this Spag stuff. And, whether that's because he doesn't have the full trust of the secondary or it's a divisional game, we're going to see the Broncos again. We don't, it's a lower tier offense. We don't want to bust all this stuff out. Whatever it was, we weren't seeing much of it in the first half. And Bo Nix was kind of having his way in a Bo Nix kind of way. Like it's not like he was dicing us up really. But you're expecting the Chiefs defense, who's in the discussion for best defense in the league, against Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback, the old rookie quarterback in his first start at Arrowhead stats that I didn't really see this week, but those were definitely a stat that's out there and a porous record from opposing quarterbacks doing that. And I really thought, he played above expectation, I would say.
And that's just like another, I guess, aspect of this game that I just don't really know. I don't know how I feel about it yet because whether you guys believe it or not, the Broncos pass protection has been very highly rated all season long. And Sunday was no exception. It felt like we weren't speeding him up really at all. There were a couple blitzes that got home, but I was in some ways like, well, Spags, like, what are, and you mentioned like we've talked about Spag shutdown mode. And we have the Broncos on the schedule again. I don't know if we'll actually like see quote unquote the Broncos again, because it is the last regular season game. They might be a playoff team, maybe. I heard a couple of people say after watching them play, like I would pick the Broncos to be, the 7th seed or whatever. And I don't know how all the seeding stuff is going to work out. But with that being said, I know that it's disappointing to see Bo Nix have a pretty solid statistical day. But but I do want to remind you, this is the 29th straight game that they've allowed 28 or fewer points, and in this one, it's only 14. And if you want to get even more specific, I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 29 plays for 57 yards in the second half.
I think it was 10 yards going into that last drive. I think they had 10 yards on what looks like 3 drives before that last drive.
It was a 3-and-out that gained 2 yards, an 8-play drive that gained 10 yards, a 3-and-out that had -2 yards, and then 40-something yards on their final drive that ended in the blocked field goal. Like, Denver did nothing in the second half. Nothing at all. And as we established on that last drive, because of the screw-up from Butker, Denver only moved the ball 35 or 40 yards or something on that final drive, too. And so, I mean, I know that there were some miscommunications. There were, like, some third down conversions in there. That one for McDuffie on the final drive leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Him blatantly giving up the touchdown to Sutton leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But they still shut down a bad offense. And truly, at the end of the day, like, that is what matters. The Broncos scored 14 points. And so, yeah, Bo Nix had some moments, and maybe he played above expectation, but the Chiefs' defense continued to do what they do. They shut down the Broncos' run game. Estime had a decent day, but it's not like they ran for 100 yards or anything. And I can't complain about what they did, like just the bottom line performance against the team, like the Broncos.
I'm totally fair. And this is more like future concerns when they're playing like a much more vaunted offense, and they start to see these holes, and it starts to become bigger and bigger problems. Just this season could come down to a 3rd and 4. Like I think that's what it was on the Purdy not the sack, but the pass deflection last year that kind of gives the Chiefs the ball back. If Purdy converts that 3rd and 4, and if Duffy gets, Spags draws up the blitz, McDuffie comes free and bats the ball down, I think that's on a 3rd and 4, maybe a 3rd and 6. But it's just, your season can kind of come down to those plays. So you just want to be schooled. So I totally agree, because I'm sitting here complaining about the defense and the total stats look good. I think where the problem is just situationally, like the Broncos going 7 of 13 on 3rd downs and then being able to move down the field on that final drive. So I think it's more just like situationally like that. But your point is, well received. It's a good point, and they allow 14 points. So it's hard to get too mad at a defense that ever allows 14 points.
Yeah. It's just another, and we.
Are you all right?
Yes, but,
are you all right?
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
Winking. Yeah. It's a weird game.
You rarely see
I did double winks for our friends that only wear games, because that, if nothing else, was a weird one. One guy on the defense that I want to highlight early in the game, in fact, I believe it was the Broncos' first possession. Justin Reed makes this open field tackle on 3rd down, and it just made me think that we take for granted what a solid player Justin Reed continues to be. He is a guy that we rarely think about, that we rarely talk about, and my read on that is because he just is consistently doing his job. And every once in a while, you might get a big hit, or he might be around the ball on a turnover or something, but Justin Reed's splash plays are doing his job. It's him wrapping up a guy on a 3rd down to prevent them from, getting the first down. But I just feel like I so rarely of course, Justin Reed is going to allow receptions just like anybody on the defense. No one is perfect. But that's a guy in the last year of his contract that I think the Chiefs lean on a lot, both on the field and off the field. He is one of the people that speaks to the media more than any player. It's like Mahomes first and Justin Reed second. And I think that he's got like a pretty strong stature in that locker room, to where I don't know if they're gonna let him leave. He is starting to get up there in age. I think he's around 28 or so. But he has been worth every penny. He is not Tyrann Mathieu, but has really softened the blow of losing that leadership and bringing him in. And I thought he just had another nice game on Sunday.
Yeah, all fair. I like it. I like the Justin Reed play. A couple other guys I thought made just a random plays. Felix had a play where he kind of, Bo Nix is kind of juking back and forth, and Felix just doesn't buy it, and it leads to like a big 5 or 6 yard loss. And it was like a 2nd and 2, and it pushes back to like a 3rd and 8, which when you're playing a team like the Broncos was a huge play. I mean, that's essentially a drive stopper in this game where 3rd and longs were tough to come by. So that was good. Chimichurri had a good tackle in the open field when he's really struggled in that department this year.
I remember at least 2 plays that our boy Chamari Corner made. And one of them, I believe he was actually playing outside corner by alignment. It was probably somebody that moved and he was in man. And so he ended up being on the outside. But he had 2 plays where it's like, we've seen this dude miss this tackle multiple times this year. And so I was very pleased to see him coming.
I mean, he's always just playing super aggressively, which I like, but he'll come flying forward way too fast and just kind of, the runner will just shake him off, no problem, because he's just moving too forward. Another guy, Chris Jones, who had the best grade of all Chiefs players from PFF, so they saw stuff they like. I feel like I hardly noticed Chris Jones. We talked about the Broncos' offensive line being a strong unit, but also, I mean, Chris Jones kind of had a quiet 3 weeks or so here, I would say. And I just want to say, if he's kind of coasting through the middle of the season, and that's what's going on, I'm 100% fine with that. If his journey this season is to come out, dominate early in the season, help the team get out to a healthy lead in the 1 seed, coast a bit in the middle of the season, and then kind of rest up for a playoff push where he comes back and dominates, I am 100% fine with that. Like, I know he's not probably saying that, but if that's how we're getting Chris Jones, it's much better for him to be great at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season. Obviously, at the end of the season is most important. And if, there's a few games in here where he's not as dominant, I don't think it's a, referendum on him as a player. I think it might just be, kind of we're in the dog days of the season here. And it's just he's just not dominating as much as he was early on in the season.
Right. And I mean, you mentioned the snap counts. I've got them here, and we've got another game where Chris Jones is at close to 90% of the defensive snaps. And so even though we've talked a lot about some of the auxiliary pieces on the defensive line, a Wharton, a Mike Pennell, and some of the defensive ends, how they can move down it. You think of a guy like Malik Herring. The Chiefs are using all of their pieces, but it seems like everyone is working in combination with Chris Jones rather than giving him a breather. His stat counts are still super high at this point. They're really leaning on him. Just of note, you mentioned Chris Roland Wallace, 0 defensive snaps, did not see the field defensively.
It's the right move. It's the right move. It's okay. He's not ready for the NFL.
And, look, I hate to make such an abrupt transition, but I think it is important to talk about another guy that, frankly, is just not ready for the NFL right now, and that is on the offensive side of the ball, my guy, Kingsley Suamataia. But honestly, man, I'm really having a hard time coming up with the right nickname for him because Kingsley, more like poorly. Or
thinking of Queensley.
No, we don't need to say that to be a queen is bad. But he's not a king at left tackle, right? He's the king of not getting out of his stance. He's the king of letting Nick Bonito get around the corner without being touched. I don't know. Is it poorly? Is it commonly? I don't know. I was trying to think of the opposite of a king.
Dude, who's the king on Game of Thrones? Who's Joffrey? How about Joffrey?
Oh, Joffrey.
Joffrey.
King Joffrey Suamataia. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, it's a tough game to get dropped in the middle of, but I honestly haven't seen much of a difference between Kingsley and, I don't know, Darian Kennard. His ceiling is incredibly high, but he's undoubtedly a project, and I think he's unplayable right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted him, full bias, wanted him to win the job, wanted him to, play the full season, be our left tackle of the future, saw all this stuff on paper. This guy cannot be allowed on the field right now. Like, he can't. I'm sorry. I do not want to watch him play football for this team right now. He's not ready. And I know that, like, he's in a tough spot or whatever because it's the middle of the game, and Denver's got an incredible pass rush, second in the league in sacks, and most of it predicated on speed and blitzing. So the communication has got to be there. His athleticism has got to be on point. But the fact that this guy, who was heralded for his length and athleticism, the fact that he can't even, like, set that corner
and get a hand on,
not even touching Nick Bonito, I'm like, he is bad. Right now, he's bad. Badly Suamataia. Okay? Badly. And from Nick in the chat, peasantly Suamataia. Like that, we've got some options here. Maybe we'll put a poll out or something. But I don't. He's no king of mine right now. And can I say, as an alternative, I know that with as poor as he's playing, that, like, Mike Rimmers looks good at left tackle. But truly, I have to admit surprise at the gap, the cavern, the canyon, it feels like, between what Wanye Morris is doing at left tackle and what Kingsley is doing at left tackle. I thought it was close, and it is not. He's not even playing the same sport out there, man.
Absolutely. And I don't know. So Nick brings up producer Nick's talking here in the chat. Donovan Smith going to come back, and he has a tweet that kind of, teases it. Man, we love former Chiefs players love teasing about, Chiefs. They love tweeting out little Chiefs pictures. Tyreek can't stop tweeting Chiefs pictures. I think Snead even tweeted out a Chiefs picture today. Like it might be a bad idea to take, a few extra $1 million and leave Kansas City when all they do is go be miserable and watch Kansas City win here. But I don't know if I'm in the minority on this, but I'm fine as long as Wanye is in there. Like, I do not want to bring in Donovan Smith to replace Wanye Morris. Now, if you want to bring him in as insurance in case he gets hurt, because we're a snap away from Kingsley from Peasant Lead being back in the game, that's fine. But I'm not out here wanting to bring him in and make a huge move like that to replace Wanye Morris, because I think he's fine. And I think it seems like Mahomes kind of plays differently when Wanye is in there versus Kingsley. He really does not trust Kingsley in there for, I guess, for obvious reasons now. I was going to say for whatever reason. But it seemed like before this game, for whatever reason, he didn't have as much trust when they almost seemed like similar players. Obviously, after this game, he doesn't trust them for obvious reasons. But, another bad thing, his body language after that sack, where he doesn't help Mahomes up. He just kind of turns around and hangs his head, and it's just like he looked so defeated. Like, he just could not be less into that game. So that was tough to see. But where are you at on that? Because are you fine with just writing out Wanye for the rest of the year? Are you freaking out because we're one play away from having a huge problem? Obviously, I think we all are freaking out about that. Are you rushing to bring in Donovan? Would you bring him in and start him over Wanye? Are you at that point?
I would roll with Wanye. I'm fine with his play. I mean, I'm not jumping for joy. And it's, tough to look bad when Kingsley is the dude that's backing you up. I think that Donovan Smith is the, like, break glass in case of emergency. And for me, I'm signing him right now and saying, get on that practice squad. And maybe within 2-3 weeks, when you're really up to speed, I'll put you on my active roster and drop Ethan Driscoll or whoever, this dude that we like, but it was an undrafted project at tackle. I mean, there are guys on our 53 that they like, but they're just taking up space. Ethan Driscoll is a healthy, inactive every week, and he's like your 10th or 11th offensive lineman. And he's an interior guy. They liked his athleticism in the draft. He's a late-round draft pick. Like, there is room here for Donovan Smith to not play and only be out there if Wanye can't go for one reason or another. And I'm not kidding. If they found out that Wanye couldn't go, like, if they knew on Saturday before the Sunday 3:25 game in Buffalo, I'm buying Donovan Smith's plane ticket to get up to Orchard Park. Like I am at the point right now that I'm not worried about Wanye Morris, but I am very, 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 very worried about his backup. I don't even want to say the guy's name anymore because I don't know what it is yet. But like it's Wanye is the starter for me, and Donovan Smith should be here as a swing tackle because frankly, he has played both sides in his career. And if Juwan Taylor goes down, we're just as screwed, man. Like it does not work. We can't put someone on the field. We don't have a backup tackle is where we're at. And I don't know that Wanye Morris, we even said last week, no matter, he could start every game for the rest of the year. And unless he goes on some crazy run, I still don't know that I want to enter 2025 with Wanye as my left tackle. But he is the best of what we've got. And I don't know if Donovan is an upgrade on it, but it makes me feel a lot better that we would have him as a backup. I think it's crazy if they don't.
I mean, I think the Chiefs could afford the plane ticket, and Clark Kent's
honestly,
never,
Clark, just get him on the jet, right? Yeah.
He's never going to beat the cheap allegations if they make you buy the plane ticket.
I would try to get him on Spirit, which would be uncomfortable, but
you're playing Spirit, buddy. I'm sorry.
It's just one game, man. It's one one-way ticket. You'll be fine.
And yeah, I mean, and the fear is that, Wanye gets hurt in like week 16 or something. And then by that time, it's too late for Donovan to get into shape for a playoff game. So yeah,
like think of the history with like this specific situation, man. Like we lost Eric Fisher in the AFC Championship game and lost a Super Bowl because of all the shuffling they had to do. And they had 2 full weeks to figure it out, but they couldn't do it. And so we're sitting here right now and everyone sees the problem. It is abundantly clear. And Andy, to his credit, is saying nicer things now about Kingsley than he did at the beginning of the year. I expressed my frustration with the way that they were handling him. And I was trying to coddle the guy. He sucks. Right now, he's so bad. And I will applaud Andy for saying, hey, they're both getting better. We're going to be okay here, this, that, and the other. I don't even know how he could lump the two of them together right now. I know they're both young guys and they both see maybe a future for them. I'm terrified of the backup being on the field. And I do not want to watch that kind of football. And I don't want to lose another Super Bowl because we're not prepared. And the way that you prepare right now is Donovan Smith.
I almost kind of wonder, I hate to speculate, but like if the Andy calling him out like that because he was kind of vitriol about it, and that has something to do with like his attitude, and that we saw on the field and not going and picking up Mahomes. Like I wonder if those are kind of intertwined and maybe he's, I don't know, kind of loafing a bit or not sure what's going on. I don't want to speculate too much, but I wonder if those are connected. I also wonder if Tooney is a possibility in case of emergency. If they want to slide him out the left tackle and you can hide a lineman a whole lot easier at guard, especially if you got Tooney on one side and Creed on the other, and then plug in, me or you or Caliendo is left guard.
Caliendo is
Frank Caliendo, yeah, the guy that does the impressions. Yeah, put him in that guard. It's a weird choice, but yeah.
He's a league average player. I think that Caliendo playing at left guard in between Tooney and Creed is I don't know if he's worse than Wanye Morris is at left tackle. I might even be comfortable enough with Caliendo at left guard next to Wanye at left tackle and be like, they're the same player. Like I could be wrong. I don't know. Well, Wanye's got starting experience and Caliendo has some spot mop up duty. I will say this for Peasantly. I think that he is very young. He transferred schools. I don't know if it's because things weren't working at Oregon. If it was too competitive and he wanted to go to BYU, I don't know if he had connections at BYU. I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. But I will say this. Because of how involved Creed and Trey are with things like offensive line masterminds and some of these summits that go on in the offseason, like they are going to push these young developing offensive linemen into those summits and spend as much time with them as possible. We think about Camp Mahomes and all the things that he does, with his receivers in the offseason. The offensive line is doing the same thing. And I think that, like, to me, I would imagine that, a Kingsley, a Wanye, even a Caliendo, like some of these guys, Creed and Trey are probably like demanding that they go. And ultimately maybe some of that training, some of that offseason stuff can get Peasant hit right. I don't know. That's enough at left tackle. Kareem needs a week off, man. Kareem Hunt needs a week off.
It's coming. It's coming soon. One final thought on Peasant. It's a lesson to be learned to take training camp reports, wad them up, and throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
Training camp reports are kind of fed to you by the team. There's very little contact. It just doesn't mean anything, and people get fooled year after year into thinking that this is going to mean something, because we haven't really seen Kingsley be a good player, and yet he has like this perception of being like this great player. He might have had a good preseason. I think there was good stats about him in the preseason, but does anybody know who he was going up against? I mean, preseason is just so many NFL backups anymore. It's extremely tough to tell if anything is worth anything in the preseason either. It's just about getting reps and getting used to shit like that. But yeah, take training camp stuff, wad it up, throw. I remember when Blake Bortles was a Hall of Famer in training camp preseason. It was like, well, maybe we should see it on the field here a couple times before we anoint someone. Kareem Hunt looks
you're like walking up to the line of slandering Jackie Battle here. Preseason doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Yeah, I know.
Excuse you? Jackie Battle was a warrior.
In my head, I was workshopping a joke that like the only defensive ends that Kingsley Suamataia is confident playing against are Malik Herring and Felix Mdiki. Almost like the people that he's lining up against in practice.
Slandering the whole team now.
I mean, it was a tough win. Kareem. Let's talk about Kareem Hunt.
Kareem, worn down, help's coming. I don't think there's too much we can do. I mean, I don't want to get a week off now. I mean, it's coming.
No, I'm just saying, like, gosh, dude, like, he is absolutely battered and bruised, literally and figuratively. I mean, this is a guy that finally had fewer than 20 carries in a game, only had 14 this week. But the added touches in receiving, this is the game. He ended like right at 100 yards, right? He had like 60-something receiving or 50. Like,
65, yeah. 65.
Yeah.
He had 100 yard game.
He had 21 touches, so he went over 20 again. Really, really good in the receiving game this week. Not good at all in the running game. I mean, as far as the productivity was concerned. I'm starting to think about like it has gotten so dire at running back. I'm like, man, like what I wouldn't do to just hand Clyde the ball between the tackles, 7 times next week. Like just give me a chance here.
I think it's the first time that sentence has ever been uttered.
Yeah, right.
I would do to see the horizontal shotgun run from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I love to see that 3-yard loss.
Could we just like put a candle right on top of an RPO so I can blow it out for my birthday wish? It's not good. We did see that Pacheco and Aminahu were both like, hey, you're coming back now. They have the 21-day window or whatever. We'll see how quickly Pacheco gets activated. I would like to think not Buffalo, but then the Raiders or the Panthers or whoever it is that we play next. Not this week, but next week is really what I'm trying to circle a little bit for Pacheco. We'll see. I tell you what, though, man, I mean, that offense, not just clunky at running back, another wasted opportunity for Xavier Worthy. Really, we've saved the best for last with Patrick Mahomes missing 2 touchdowns.
I'll take this one. He missed 2 throws. He's going to be fine. I mean, what is there to analyze? I mean, he missed them. I mean, it was weird. The second one was weird to see. I mean, a deep shot, that's a hard throw, but the miss to Kelsey was definitely pretty weird. But
at least he didn't turn it over. How about that? No turnovers again. 2 weeks in a row.
Let's talk Billy.
Do you say that again?
Let's talk Billy boys.
Oh, yeah, we should talk Bills. I do want to say Travis Kelce, quietly the backbone of the offense again, I think. I told you I thought the numbers were going to start to increase. They certainly are. It still seems like when it's got to have it, when it's money down, money time, they're going to Travis Kelce. But yeah, let's talk about the Bills. Actually, can I say one last thing? Back to the special teams. McCole Hardman, I think, deserves to be talked about for just a second. McCole has been largely killing it on punt return. He did have the no gain catching the ball at the 6-yard line or whatever on the last play of the third quarter. But he's made a few plays on offense too. And I got to say, I kind of thought McCole was washed. And by kind of, I mean, I definitely thought McCole was washed. But to me, he is clearly a useful player for this team. He might be potentially replacement level. They might be able to use some other, speedy guy or something to do some of these things. But when they've tried it, it hasn't really worked. And I just want to say it's official. I no longer question why McCole Hardman is on this team. Like I see it. I see enough in the return game. I see enough offensively that like McCole is worth having. You can stay.
Suck on that, DK Metcalf. Monday. I'm going a little bit of a zag of the week here because I see so much hatred. Dave Toub is a good coach. All right, Dave Toub's a good coach. That's my zag of the week. I think people just think he's like the worst coach imaginable. Here's Chiefs special teams DVOA rankings since Dave Toub joined the team in 2013. 1st, 3rd, 9th, 1st, 4th, 2nd, 17th, 3rd, 19th, 6th. So, sure, you can argue that he's maybe getting a little worse. He's not as strong as he once was. But look at all these, 9 of the 11 years here are in the top 10, and multiple firsts and seconds along the way. The Chiefs are good on special teams. Dave Toub takes a lot of heat. I don't get why. I'll never understand why. I think it's because we cut, who was that stupid Tim Ward? We cut Tim Ward, and everybody blamed Dave Toub for some reason. For Tim Ward to go on and have 6 tackles in his career, we had 2 months of Twitter just losing their minds because Tim Ward, oh my God, Dave Toub not gonna let Tim Ward on the team. Oh no, Tim Ward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who the Chiefs have lost over the years to these like decisions that are on the margins of the roster that have consistently frustrated friends of ours. I'm still on Team Toub, but I will say that there are times where people, like, someone needs to step in and save Dave Toub from himself, because we should not be aggressively trying to return kickoffs anymore. We should not be doing dumb stuff when we are the kicking team either. Just go out there, punt the ball when it's time to punt, kick the ball when it's time to kick, kneel it down, fair catch, aside from the occasional wide open punt return. Like, can we just be vanilla? Because I believe it was last year we were doing the numbers and it was like the Chiefs lost unchartable DVOA to trying to do things that are dumb. So
sixth in special teams DVOA last year. 6th.
Okay, well,
Tim Ward's
last first.
Tim Ward's most recent team: the Hamilton Tiger Cats, San Antonio Brahmas, DC Defenders, and Houston Roughnecks. That's the Tim Ward update for you. That's why we're mad at Dave Toub.
It's because he didn't get it shot, Dirk.
Couldn't squeeze that guy on the roster. You may have seen me look at my phone in disgust at one point. I had texted Billy Pesto one thing to watch for in Chiefs Bills. This jackass. This jackass responds. Probably the refs, if I had to choose. Heard they weren't warning Mahomes early enough last week. So if they can't fix that, then I don't know what we'll do. And so I just blocked him. I gave him the Leo Chenal block, just a straight text message block.
They hate us.
If you open up, God, we're running low on time here and I want to do more. But man, if you just open up a tweet about anything Chiefs related from any NFL thing, dude, it's 100 times NFL is rigged, Chiefs refs. That's all you see. It's insane. I can't believe how prevalent that is. Let's talk Bills.
Yeah.
Bills are favored. Nobody believes in us. That seems to work out. Chiefs are actually selling wild card round playoff tickets. So even our ticket office doesn't believe in us. I think they're just pushing the narrative. They should just promote the hell out of that. Like, when the Chiefs play in the wild card round, you got to be at Arrowhead and just put that in Patrick's locker. They've beaten us in 3 straight regular seasons, obviously. Then just a couple stats here, and then just get your thoughts on the Billy Boys. 30th in yards per carry allowed on D. So they're a potential weakness in their run defense. And first in turnover differential. You may have seen the stats of Josh Allen having turnover-worthy plays, but not throwing interceptions. He does have a couple now. But they also turn teams over a lot when they're on defense, too. But the best turnover differential in the league. Oh, and then before we go, undefeated pass for the Chiefs, 9-0. This is the game where they trip up. Memory lane a little bit. They have 2003 and 2013. They both lost after starting the season 9-0. 2003, Chad Johnson guarantees a win. Remember that? Do you remember who the Bengals quarterback was in 2003 when we lost to him? Because I had this wrong.
2003, I want to say Kitna.
It was John Kitna. I was thinking it was Carson Palmer, but he wouldn't have been there for probably 3 years or so more. Rudy Johnson went 22 carries, 165 yards on us.
Not surprising.
Fun name drop.
Tough to tackle.
That wasn't even the most because Clinton Portis lit us up for like 260 yards and 5 touchdowns. Yeah, they had a punt return touchdown for Peter Warwick. Chiefs scored a touchdown and then a one-play 77-yard long touchdown to Peter Warwick that basically ended that game. 2013, Chiefs and Broncos. We actually did a live post-game show after this game, early on in amateur hour history. Broncos just kind of big brothered us. Not as many fun name drops on this. Chiefs had 3 drives down 7 in the third quarter. They went 3 yards, 3 yards, and 3 yards. The next drive, they're down 24-10 in the fourth. Punted on 4th and 7 from the Denver 41. And I am 100% positive that I lost my mind when I would still get mad at Andy Reid. Luckily, those days are in the past. I don't get mad at him anymore. But, man, I would have been furious at that punt. I'm sure I was. But, yeah, the 10th game is the bugaboo in the Chiefs' undefeated quest here. What are your thoughts on Chiefs, Billy Boys?
Honestly, one of the big things that I have been, I guess, chewing on a little bit is that Bills team right now. They're like at the very beginning of losing a lot of guys to injury. And all of them are like just real cloudy. They don't know who they're going to have for this game. It sounds like Kincaid is very much up in the air. I mean, they go deep at tight end, so they'll be okay with Knox. But Kincaid is one of their best offensive weapons, and it sounds like he may not play. They already ruled out first-rounder Keon Coleman. It sounds like Amari Cooper, they're saying that, like, quote-unquote, he's improving. But I did see a quote from Sean McDermott saying that he's not exactly sure what the next step Amari Cooper needs to take to return to game action. He's been limited in practice for a couple of weeks, and he said that it's like a wrist injury, and it's all about pain tolerance. And so that doesn't sound good for the Bills. And
they're calling him out.
You're talking about
calling him out.
Cooper and Coleman and Kincaid potentially all missing that game offensively. And I did see the Chiefs weren't the only team to declare someone like back, opening up the 21-day window. Did you see that the Bills did that with Milano? I thought he was going to be definitely done for the year. If they suddenly give Milano for a month and then he gets to be on the field for them in the playoffs, that's huge. I mean, that is, I think, as big a move as, you know, a Minahu or Pacheco or whatever. Like, he is their best defensive player. And so that could be potentially big for them. I don't think he will be in the mix for this game on Sunday. It's massive though, right, man? I mean, we're talking about if the Chiefs beat the Bills, they're three games better in the loss column than anybody in the AFC. They will remain undefeated, and every single team. Well, actually, I take that back, except for the Steelers. The Steelers will still have 2 losses. I don't know who they play this week, but my God, man! I mean, the Chiefs are kind of at this. They're at the precipice of something, right? And I know that it's only 9 games in. And Nick is telling me that the Steelers and Ravens are playing this week, an absolutely massive game. If the Ravens win and deal the Steelers their third loss, and the Chiefs beat Buffalo, I mean, you're looking at. I mean, honestly, if you're Andy Reid, I don't know if it's so brazen, but like, do you just declare some week a bye? Do you give the team Christmas Day off or something? You know, you're playing the Steelers. They're going to be a playoff team. Just rest the starters. It's the sandwich game in the middle of 3 games in 10 days, I believe. And so it's just, if you are 3 games better than any team in the AFC, then the Chiefs can start to get really creative, especially with that like week 5 or 6 bye that they had, and an older team. I mean, there's something in there. This Bills game means a little bit more to me. I could care less about, we lose to the Bills all the time. You mentioned, like, we play the Bills in the regular season, have fun, win the game, enjoy it. I don't know if we want to just like give this one away. Not that they ever really do, but I think that they might care a little bit more because of the position that it could put them in the AFC. It's almost just like, can anybody overcome that? And I mean, well, there's numbers in there somewhere. Any team to overcome a 3-game deficit in order to win the conference or whatever. In the last,
yeah, it's almost a point of pride to lose it to Buffalo in the regular season and then beat them in the playoffs. It's kind of like our identity. Like, oh yeah, have fun. It is kind of an interesting spot because the Chiefs like to hold back in these situations, but they also can smell when it's an important game. So the 1 seed could almost be locked up versus. We are, a very good chance we're going to see Buffalo later on in the season in a game that's going to matter 100 times more than this game. So it's kind of an interesting spot because the Chiefs do like to hold back in these situations. So Andy Reid shutdown mode is on watch. Spags shutdown mode is on watch. Just an interesting question of how much they want to show. And I will also pose, is that a good thing? Is winning this week and essentially having the 1 seed wrapped up with how many more games? 7 games more to go. Is that a good thing for the team? Because you're essentially playing 7 games of the season that won't mean anything. And I feel like that's just like it's too much time. Like we've talked a lot about in the Chiefs Super Bowl seasons dealing with adversity, and it's just that's too long of a stretch to have to like you still kind of have the Steelers there as a threat, I think, and you're still playing the games, but it's just everything means so much less for the next 7 games if we win this game that I see like a pitfall of like it's just too much. I don't want to say meaningless, but not as meaningful football to then turn it on into the postseason and play the biggest games of Mahomes' career. The thing that can change this is if they're going undefeated and if they're chasing it, because then games are obviously extremely meaningful. And strangely enough, me and Ken Swanson discussed this very thing. If they were going for an undefeated season, would they rest the starters? And I almost went through the computer screen and attacked him when he said he would rest the starters down the stretch if they're going undefeated because he cares more about the Super Bowl. And I was like, there's no fucking chance that I would rest the starters if they're going undefeated. Where are you at? We got to get out of here soon, but where are you at real quick on going undefeated? Does that matter to you? Are you just locked in on the Super Bowl? What's your thoughts on if it gets to that point, chasing an undefeated season? Because it's just for, the Patriots, I think a lot of people, the general consensus is kind of going for the undefeated season, chasing that kind of wore them down, and they weren't at their best towards the end of the season. They played like a close AFC championship, and they played, obviously they lose in the Super Bowl, but they just weren't at their best. They're kind of peaked in like October and November, and they wore down chasing that because it was just so much week after week after week. But there's also a chance. I mean, you have to chase history when you can, man. If you're going to be the only 20-0 team in NFL history, that's got to mean something too. So where are you at on
that? I'm realizing that they are at the halfway point of the season. They have 8 more games on the schedule, and so like, do I care about going undefeated? Not as much as I care about winning 3. That's what I care about. I want a 3-peat more than I want to be undefeated. And honestly, Dirk, it almost sounds like you made a miscalculation, because the way that you're talking about this game, it sounds like the Zag of the week should be you want the Chiefs to lose to the Bills so that they are then motivated and thrust forward into continuing to play important football games. Even though they don't have the undefeated season to pursue, they would then only be 1 game better than Buffalo. Buffalo would have the tiebreaker. That really starts to matter. It maybe, gets the best out of the team or something. I don't know.
I'm definitely not cheering for it. There's no way I'll cheer for it, especially going up against Buffalo. It just means so much. But I want the undefeated season, I think, way more than most people. I want it. I want that.
No, you know what I want? I want that record of 30. It would be 35 is what breaks the record. I want 35 straight games allowing 21 or 28 points or less defensively. It belongs to, as you mentioned to us a week or two ago, Jim Johnson's Philadelphia Eagles from 2004 to 2000 to 2004. Andy Reid's Eagles, but Jim Johnson's Eagles. Okay,
they would also be right around the same time period. They would be right around the all-time winning streak, which is the Patriots in 2003 to 2004. I want to say, but I looked it up at some point. I think it's the Texans game that would be either tying or breaking the all-time winning streak if they get there.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I love all the records that can fall at the hands of this dynasty. And I want everyone, I will say, to me, especially with an aging team, and we've got guys that need some time off, and there's no time off coming unless you get that 1 seed. Like, I am load managing the hell out of this roster, and I don't care if we lose 2-3 games as long as we still have the number 1 seed and we get the bye.
Your priorities.
Undefeated season, cool. Don't care, especially if it harms in any way like the pursuit of a 3-peat. That is the number 1 priority. And I think that like trying to continue to play on this razor's edge for 8 more games to then just go into the playoffs, I don't know, man. I'm not sure if the juice is worth the squeeze there.
It's tough. Not everybody's made for it. But man, I just look back at those end of season 2007 Patriots games. It was so much fun. They were just like running on fumes, and it's just like, can they do it? Like the Week 17 game against the Giants before playing them in the Super Bowl was an amazing game. They played like a bad Baltimore team, and they gave them all they could handle. It's just an interesting, but it gets interesting here because, after they play the Bills, everyone has this Bills game circled, obviously. But then after that, at Panthers, Raiders at home, Chargers at home, at Browns. They're going to be touchdown favorites in all 4 of those games.
But I don't want to sweat them out and have to care if we win, because like if they're playing close games like they did against Denver, and I'm like living and dying on every play because I want them to go undefeated, I may not survive this run to the 3-peat. Like my cardiovascular health needs a break as well. All right.
You can go sit on the sideline with the peasantly over there.
No, that's fine. I mean, he's probably like Jonathan Moxon over there, just like reading a book in his playbook. I'm reading Kurt Vonnegut. Folks, this has been a classic episode of Amateur Hour, a good 75 minutes. We probably owe you a good 90-minute in there, maybe before the regular season's over. We'll see. It's a new Amateur Hour. You never know.
we're gonna have a Panthers game in here. We're gonna go for like 22 minutes. We're gonna get to the read. We're gonna get through the read, and then just I'll fake a sickness, and we'll be done with the show.
You trailed up there. Were you calling from a walkie-talkie?
Well, let's save you some time.
All right, well, folks, I'm Ryan Scott Hall. He's His Dirkness, and this has been another episode of Amateur Hour, and this is where His Dirkness says,
Preach.